If you're an American, whether you have symptoms or not, likely your gut is being wrecked. I'm going to share with you 10 foods that are likely wreaking havoc with your gut. Stop eating these and start healing. I'm Dr. Jake. I'm a naturopathic physician, and on this channel, I'll share with you how you can heal your body down to the root causes without any harmful drugs or surgeries. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. Okay, let's jump in. Let's start with the first one that is wreaking havoc with our guts. The first one I want to talk about is modern wheat, and that's particularly there modern, right? And not ancient. We have the wheat that we are eating nowadays is completely different than it was like in the 1980s, for example. And it's completely different than the wheat that the Italians are eating. And that's why a lot of people feel a lot better when they eat wheat in Italy compared to here. Let's bring this back a little bit. So we have chromosomes. Let's say we change one chromosome in a human. That's going to lead to someone having Down syndrome. Still human, definitely, but not quite the same as a normal individual, right? Wheat has been changed 23 chromosomes different now than it was anciently. So can we really call it wheat anymore? It's a completely different thing, right? It's not what ancient wheat was. It's different. It's higher in gluten. It's higher in its elasticity. If you eat ancient wheat compared to it, you could tell the total difference to it. There's reasons why they did it, because they wanted to make it more gooey and they wanted to make it that way so people can enjoy it a little bit more. Also, they made changes so people could cut it up and farm it quicker and it wouldn't be as hard that way. So there's that. And so it's a totally different thing. Our bodies aren't used to seeing it. And that's going to cause this inflammatory cascade to happen every time we eat it and put it into our body. And that's especially happening first in our gut. Most of our immune system is hanging out in there. It's going to wreak havoc on our gut lining, and it could lead to other food sensitivities in the future because of that. It's going to cause damage to our microvilli, which is then going to cause us not to absorb our food very well and have nutrient deficiencies. Also, it's packed, most wheat modernly now has a ton of glyphosate in it. They spray it with all this Roundup, which you don't really think about, right? Your farmers spray it with all this glyphosate to make it brown at the same time, and then they cut it up. Back in the day, they didn't really have glyphosate. They had to wait till it all browned, and then they had to cut it up. So this increases the speed for farmers to be able to get wheat out on the market, so it saves a lot of money. That's really the only reason, and then we get tons of glyphosate and Roundup. And if you read the Roundup bottle, it says, "Oh, yeah, not for consumption. You should poison control if you drink any of this stuff." But if you put it on our wheat and you put it in our food shelves, it's all good. No problem with it. Really, it does. Is that true? No, it's going to cause all kinds of problems with our gut with eating all this glyphosate. So those are the multiple reasons why wheat is wreaking havoc and not good for our gut, at least modern wheat right now, and how we are currently producing it. Are there any recommendations I have regarding ancient wheats that you can have? Yeah, there are. So one is called like Kamut or Eurasian wheat. That's a more ancient wheat. There's einkorn wheat, which is a more ancient wheat. And you could find these in health food stores, or you could search it online and find it even easier. And you could use something like Azure Standard, which I really love to get a lot of migraines. Azure Standard is a good company that has all kinds of great healthy foods that you can buy, and they have it, and then they can ship it to you. They have certain drop-off locations so you could get it in bulk. You could look for Italian wheats at specialty stores because the Italians are very strict on their wheat. That hasn't changed for hundreds of years. It's a very ancient wheat, and you're going to be better eating a pasta from Italy than you are just eating a typical American pasta that coming from the wheat that we have. So those are some recommendations. Yeah. What is the second food that we shouldn't be eating because it's destroying our gut? The second one is homogenized and pasteurized dairy. I'm okay with dairy if you get it raw. It's good. It's great. But if you drink a ton of dairy that's homogenized and pasteurized, is the protein structure changes. They call it lactose intolerance, and many times it's not just the lactose, it's a protein issue that they have with them, or they don't do well with dairy and they don't want dairy. And that's why there's this huge fan. It's just really popular to be able to not really have dairy anymore because people just really don't feel great when they have dairy. And it's because of the change of the protein structure. And that change in the protein structure makes our immune system see it differently again. Same like wheat, it's a foreign molecule. It makes this a little bit more poorly digested because our body hasn't really learned. Maybe in several hundred years, our bodies will become more used to the homogenized and pasteurized wheat through several generations, but it's causing inflammation, damage in our gut lining, and it's not good. So stay away from the typical dairy that you get in the store. Except if you're getting good quality raw dairy, I think it's not a problem. I'm saying the complete opposite of what the typical food industry says, right? We need to pasteurize, homogenize so we don't form bacteria. That's why they're doing it, right? I think it's way overblown. Now, if you get a raw milk and it's not stored right and you're not getting in, it's like mass produced and not quality controlled, it's going to be high in bacteria. But if you're going to someone that's like a local farmer that just barely milked that and it's only a day old, it's not going to be really a big problem. But you just got to find the right supplier. So it's way overblown, really. And it's unfortunate because it's making our dairy not as healthy. So let's talk about the third food that's hurting our gut, and it is our beloved refined sugar. I know we all love our cookies, we love our cakes, we love our candies, but it's very bad on our gut because it is going to cause inflammation in our gut lining, cause problems, and then you absorb it, and then you get this chronic inflammatory response too. The more damage we have to our gut, the more nutrients we don't absorb. Refined sugar is just an enemy for so many reasons. We've talked, if you guys have been following our episodes, we've talked a lot about refined sugar and all the problems. And another problem that it does do is damage our gut. Now, let's talk about corn. Most importantly is genetically modified corn. I'm not anti-corn if it's done right and it's not genetically modified. At least here in the United States, most of the corn that you find, 95% at least, is genetically modified. And that genetically modification of that food makes it a foreign animal again. And our immune system see it as foreign. That's a big reason for all these autoimmune diseases is we see these foreign material, our immune system like, whoa, wait, what is that? And you just keep on getting this exposure and our immune systems get way too overproduced. And that could lead to all kinds of chronic issues like autoimmune disease, but it could lead to cardiovascular diseases, etc. So we don't want to change our food just to make it easier to produce or it doesn't have a bug that is able to eat it as well because it's making that food totally different. And our bodies just aren't used to that genetically modified food. We're going to talk about now. Number 5 is soy. It's the same type of thing. I don't recommend soy because it's genetically modified. Now, just like corn, if you could get a non-GMO soy, non-GMO tofu, totally good, totally fine. I don't have a problem with it. But it's when you get it genetically modified, it's a foreign material. Our bodies aren't going to like it. It's going to reject it. And it's going to lead to our guts being damaged and not working appropriately and lead to all kinds of health issues. Like I've talked about a lot, is foundation is our gut. If you want to be healthy, you got to make a healthy gut. And all these foods are going to make an unhealthy gut. And that's going to lead you to be an unhealthy person. So the gut is so important. It's where our immune system is. It's where we absorb our nutrients. It's a big way we detoxify. If we don't have a healthy gut, we're going to be sick. Yeah, so let's talk about if corn or soy is organic. Is it non-GMO? Yes. Currently, I don't always trust organic. You know, the USDA organic, they change their little reasons how they could use that label periodically. But yeah, right now you can't genetically modify food and call it organic with the USDA organic label. So yeah, you're good to go. Sixth food that I want to talk about today is trans fat. We don't have as much of that in our diets as much as we used to. Like 15 years ago, everyone was loving their trans fat, right? Margarine, man, that's so much better for you than butter. I mean, everyone was buying that stuff. It's like, oh, you're going to eat margarine and you're going to have a great clean arteries and your cardiovascular system is going to be happy. Man, were we wrong. The complete opposite was that, right? And the trans fats is not just horrible for our heart, it's horrible for our gut because it's an inflammatory fatty acid. It's a saturated fat that's like made way inflammatory. I'm not anti-saturated fats. If you get a good quality saturated fat, great. But what they do is they change that saturated fat into this way inflammatory saturated fat called the trans fat, which is horrible for our gut. And again, the reason is it causes inflammation, damages our gut through that inflammatory process. It's again a man-made product. You're probably getting a good idea that man messing with our food is a problem, right? That's what's making us really sick. Tell people to stop messing with our food and just keep our food in its natural state. Trans fat tastes pretty good if you have it, right? It's pretty tasty. Crisco, fry your food in there. It's pretty good, but it's horrible for your gut. So there's all kinds of good fats that you could get that aren't trans fats though, following a vegan diet. Like you have the good quality extra virgin olive oil. You have the avocado oil. You have the coconut oil. These are all really good, healthy oils that I do recommend. That's not a problem. So if you're following a vegan diet, you definitely could get really healthy fats from other sources. Food number 7 I wanted to talk about is seed oils. So we talked about one fat, trans fat, which is the worst of them all. But seed oils is definitely not good for your gut either. Very inflammatory. very high in omega-6s. With fatty acids, we want a good balance of fats. We want a good balance of saturated omega-9 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids. In the typical American diet, it's way too high in omega-6 fatty acids, and this is coming from the seed oils. This imbalance messes with the cell membrane of our gut lining, making it more pro-inflammatory and not making it function as well as it should. So it's going to wreak havoc on our gut lining. So we want to limit the seed oils. That is canola oil, safflower oil, just vegetable oils. These are horrible for you. The eighth food that I wouldn't eat if you want a healthy gut is I wouldn't heat an oil past its smoking point. I think most of us are heating oil past the smoking point because we don't know that if we put a certain oil and we put it in a pan, it's going to get really pretty hot, right? And when you do that, you do see a little bit of a steamy type of stuff coming on that. That's the smoke point. So if you're cooking with like olive oil, for example, and you're heating it in a pan, bad news. If you're doing coconut oil, typically bad news. Or you do a safflower oil, which I still don't recommend, right? It's bad oil, but it's even worse if you take it to the smoking point. What happens with this is it makes it rancid. And that makes a lot of reactive oxygen species. Reactive oxygen species are damaging to all cells throughout our body. That is putting substances in a oxidative state, which damage our body, and then we have to have antioxidants to reduce it back into the appropriate form. So it's horrible for our gut. It's going to damage our gut a great deal. So you need to be aware of the oils you have and what the smoking point is. My favorite oil to use that has a smoking point of 500 degrees is avocado oil. That's the best cooking oil that you could use. Butter's good too. That's the second. So you need to put it over something that you just barely cooked. Or if you do it really quick, like let's say you cooked up some broccoli, you were steaming that real quick, and then you just take it off the heat and you just add olive oil, mix it together and take it off real quick. That's fine. It's about how hot it is, right? I believe olive oil has a smoking point. Don't hold me to this. I believe it's around 350. So it can get to a certain point, but when you're just putting it in a pan, it gets past that so fast. Let's talk about the ninth food that is wreaking havoc on our gut, and this is processed foods. There's so many reasons why processed food is bad. So processed food have a lot of these things we just talked about, right? It has the sugar, it has seed oils, it has the trans fatty acids many times, it has all kinds of GMOs. But then you add on top of that, it has the artificial flavors, the artificial colorings, it has the MSG, emulsifiers, all this stuff, all these chemicals are so horrible for our gut. They're going to damage our gut cells and make them not work appropriately, and we're not going to absorb nutrients very well. We're going to get constipated, or maybe we'll get diarrhea, depending on what people are sensitive to. And then you're going to have all kinds of inflammatory issues because you cause damage to your gut. So stay away from the processed foods if you want a healthy gut. Yeah, let's talk about the last food, the 10th food. And it is an important one. And people might not like me telling you that you need to stop chewing your gum because aspartame is destroying your gut. Aspartame is so bad for you. So if you're one of those gum chewers that you chew gum every day, I would change the type of gum that you have at the very least. You need to stop aspartame intake because that is the sugar-free gum that most of us are chewing, right? And that's going to wreak havoc on our gut, make our gut unhealthy. So there's all kinds of really, maybe some people listening to this are like, oh, I've been doing all these things. I'm a really healthy person, but then they're chewing their gum and they're chewing it all the time and they get tons of aspartame. Or they think that, oh, I'm healthy. I'm drinking a diet soda. Man, aspartame is wrecking your gut. It's probably worse than that high fructose corn syrup for you for your gut, even though high fructose corn syrup is not good for it either. But aspartame, in my opinion, is even worse. And there's even research on it possibly causing cancer. So, not an aspartame fan, and we need to keep that away if we want to get healthy gut. If you want to learn more about healthy eating, click my video to the right, and I'll see you there.